Colleen. Hey, congratulations on being part of the production team of Hijack on Apple TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It is one exciting series. I mean, I do have to admit that I binged it, and being a part of this is terrific. So, tell us about the journey getting on board to this project for yourself.
For me, it was quite a wonderful one. I was literally just finishing a production, and I had my first meeting with Jim, who's the director, and Peter Heslop, who's the line producer. And after reading the script, I think it was one, two, and three were the ones that I got to read. I liked it immediately. I mean, George is just an amazing writer anyway. I've been a fan of Jim's for a long time because I do love the way he directs. And I remembered asking a few people what he's like. And he's just a very calm, a very wonderful person to work with. He makes sure he has a really good team around him, which I think was very important for a project such as Hijack, which we're on a plane for 8 months. But yeah, it was literally immediate that after our interview, I feel like during the interview especially, I think we all had very similar ideas, especially creatively, of what the costume story should be for being one costume for 7 hours. And I think from then it just worked really well, to be honest.
So how does one like yourself as approach something where these are everyday costumes that you and I or anyone else get on the plane and board? I mean, is there like a specific formula you have to look out for? Trying to make sure the cast of dozens or to some of us looks like hundreds, but
it is hundreds.
Yeah. So what's the approach to something like this?
My approach is, as always, it has to be colors and textures. And for the television series especially, Jim really wanted there to be a definitive look for each class without being a caricature. So the easiest way for me to do that was with colors and textures and fabrics. With first class, it was beautiful because we were coming from the Middle East. So, you're kind of limited to the fabrics you could use. So it was, beautiful silks, beautiful linens, lightweight, beautiful wools, like as in the suitings. And we were specific as in, we wanted the colors in first class to be very muted, very lush, very luxe. And then, of course, as we go down the plane until you get to economy, it gets more colorful. But never, ever a caricature of each person. And because of the way it's written, everyone had a real character as to whom they were. And if there wasn't much of a character, because there's not much space, I could always reach out to George and get a backstory on everyone. That's something I always love to do with each character, is to get a real backstory on who they are, so I can add little elements to their costumes that will be individual, especially with a cast that big.
Well, the main focus of the film is obviously Idris in the series. Tell us about what you wanted him to, wear and look like. I mean, honestly, he's the most handsome man alive right now. So,
It really
so
is.
he could put on any costume and make him look good.
Yeah, you really could, really. It was interesting. At first, there was a thought that he would be wearing a suit because he's a businessman. And I kind of talked to them into having him very casual, because even though he's a businessman, it was early in the morning. The flight was early. He had no intentions of going to work. He was going straight to England to, basically fight for his wife. And I thought it just would be nice to have him quite smartly casual, but just a nice ease about him at the beginning of the journey. You look at him, he looks like he's just going home. And it took a bit of wrangling and we went through a few looks. We went through the business look, casual suits, until we came up on just something more casual. And I find it's a look we'd never really see Idris in. It's more of what Idris looks like in real life, because he does have that just great, poise about him. And I just thought, if we're going to be having Idris, we should have Idris. And it was great just to put him in, beautiful colors, that gorgeous lush jacket that we had from Xenia in the beginning that you only see for a few minutes, but there's a pivotal few minutes in the beginning. And I think after a while, we realized that was the best way to go. Just him casual and beautiful.
Well, it is beautiful. He's a beautiful man too, so it's terrific.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you do have to do a little bit of design, and particularly for the airline uniforms with the pilots and the stewardesses. Tell us about how you wanted to handle that.
That we wanted it to be because we knew it was kind of a luxe looking flight and an airline. So I wanted the uniforms to kind of not necessarily hark back to what it was before, but just to look very tailored, very beautiful, very individual. And the only thing Jim was really wanted was the colors of the logo within the uniform. And I just wanted it to look beautiful. Each uniform to look just a little different, but well put together. All the colors in their layers, because I felt for 7 hours in one costume, we needed layers for each look. So you have some in their jackets, some in the waistcoat. We never even saw our lead male steward in a jacket. I just thought, even the shirts had a little interest to them. Again, texture. Because even though the uniform seemingly is flat, with the colors and the textures, it just gave it a bit more life. Whether we were seeing it on the CC camera from the cockpit or in real life, I just wanted it to be interesting.
Now, we talk a lot about all the costumes on the plane, but there's also costumes off the plane. First, tell us about the Middle Eastern influences that you have to research and gather to come up with those costumes.
That was I would say research wise the most fun for me, because we've seen a few throbes on film but never such a mixture of different kind of throbes, and I was very determined that we would get every throbe correct, every detail. So we had someone come in who was Middle Eastern and would make sure even the length of the sleeves would be correct. The length of the throbe on the males would be correct. So the head wraps, we had someone who was there on set every day to make sure the head wraps were correct. So yeah, I loved doing that. I loved that was one of the interesting costume wise for me for Hijack was even though it was on one costume for each person, it was a very specific look, and there was so much fun to be had with it.
So the Western Europeans, with their from country to country was the easiest thing on this project, or I
It
mean,
was in a sense, but again, we wanted to make sure color was chosen to tell the story. From going from Dubai, the colors would get cooler and cooler and cooler until you get to London. If you have a look at them, you'll see the colors get cooler. So those were the kind of things we used to tell the story. Again, color was very important in telling the story costume wise.
you know what that's excellent. You had a favorite costume yourself?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would honestly say the airline because it was always a dream of mine from traveling. My parents are from Jamaica. I've traveled and lived in three countries really with America where I am today and being from London. So air steward's uniform has always been a fun design job for me. So the fact that I've got to do it, it was, all my crew were amused by my giddiness for designing that uniform.
Most excellent. Well, Colleen, let me wrap it up with one last question. I'm always curious about, especially for craftspeople like yourself. Why do you enjoy doing costume designing in this industry?
Well, I love it because it's really the visual telling of a story. Costume design and production design are the visual of a story. So it's really important to get that right. It is important because when you're going around on switching from channel to channel. It's what you see that stops you, and you take in the story, you take in the actors. So I've always found costume to be such a fantastic way to tell a story, and that's why I love it.
That is a great answer. I mean, because everyone contributes to a great story, and this
Yeah.
is a great series with a great story. So, Colleen,
Oh, thank you.
thank you very much for carrying this conversation with us. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know.